Hello, I'm Nancy Dextrom, and today I am in Petoskey, Michigan, conducting an interview for the Brush Creek Mill for preserving part of the heritage of northeastern Michigan. And with me today I have Harry Whiteley. Harry has been a resident of Rogers City for many, many years, and today he is now residing in Petoskey at Independence Village with his wife Betty. So, Harry, we're very glad to be here. Can you tell me where you were born and something about your early life?
Well, I was born in the Good Samaritan Hospital in Los Angeles, overlooking the Rose Bowl. And my parents were out there for a couple of years, and I was born during that time. And then after that, they returned to Rogers City, and I pretty much had been in Rogers City the rest of my life, except for a couple of exceptions when I went away to work. I left Rogers City to get a job at the Midland Daily News, and then I had a job at Niles Daily Star. So there was about 10 years when I wasn't here. And then I eventually went back there and have been there ever since.
Harry, did you ever have any formal school training?
Any formal school training? Mm-hmm. No, I graduated from the Rogers City High School, and my only claim to fame there was to be president of the graduating class. But I took sick in my senior year, and I was laid up for almost 2 years. And so I was enrolled at Michigan State, but I never got there, and I don't know whether it was a mistake or not, but after I regained my health, my parents were willing to send me to school, back to state, but I said, nope, I'm going to work. My dad had spent tons of money on me during those couple of years, and I just said, nope, I'm going to work, and that's what I did. And so I probably might have done better. Everybody improves themselves by getting further education, but I made a good living and had a good life, and I'm not sorry.
Well, I didn't realize that you had had an illness when you were that young. Mm-hmm. You were not in the military, were you?
What?
Were you ever in the service?
No, and that's why.
Oh, okay.
That's why I wasn't in the service.
Okay. So you lived in Rogers City, you lived in Midland, and you lived in Niles.
Yes.
Where did you meet Betty?
Well, where did I meet Betty? It was interesting. Her her father and mother had a summer home at Long Lake, north of Alpena, and they came up there summers, and that's where I met her. And it was kind of funny. We dated 1 year or one summer, and then the next summer, it got to be about they'd come up in the spring, you know, and then they'd get back about Labor Day. And in that second year, Betty said to me, she said, well, I'll tell you what, I'm going to go back to Florida. That's where she lived.
Oh.
And, or I'm going to stay here. What are you going to do? I says, you're going to stay here. So we were married on Friday the 13th of October, 1950.
Neat.
And it wasn't unlucky because it was Friday the 13th, because we've been married 64 years.
Wow. That is a cute story. That is cute.
Yeah.
So how many children do you have?
You just saw our son.
Yes.
And he it was our child. Betty was married prior to our marriage, and she had 3 children, and I raised them pretty much because they were like 2, 3, I forgot, 2, 3, 5. They were just little kids. So they've been my kids ever since. So it was we don't know the difference. My son and these kids all get along marvelous. They think the world of each other, and they're always there for each other, and that makes us very happy. So we've had a happy family.
Well, that's very neat. That's a nice thing to leave as a legacy, isn't it?
Yeah.
The fact that you feel good about your family and they feel good about you. Can we go back to your own family and what it was like when you grew up in the Depression?
Yeah.
What was that like?
Well, to tell you the truth, I don't remember too much about it. I wasn't involved a lot, but my grandfather, who was a big lumberman, every once in a while they called him a lumber baron. He had all kinds of, he had vast holdings of forest land and lakefront, and he was involved in the Alpena Bank and the Bay City Bank and the Rogers City Bank, and when the crash came, he really took a beating because they didn't have any FDIC in those days. You know, these bankers are all protected today. They can't lose. But when the banks failed, they had to dig in their pocket and pay off the depositors. Well, that's what he did to do. And that's about all I know about the Depression, is that my grandfather took a beating.
Can you tell us your grandfather's name?
Yeah, Paul H. Heft, my grandfather's name. And it's, you want to hear about the park?
Yep.
He, as I said, he had a lot of lands, and he was really an outdoor guy like me. And he gave the state of Michigan 300 acres and a mile of lake frontage 5 miles north of Rogers City for a state park. So there's a big sign out there, Paul H. Heft State Park.
That is a nice memory. It's a beautiful park.
Beautiful I think
park.
So too. They're not crowded, and everybody loves it.
And you can't complain about the scenery. The scenery is very beautiful. Yeah,
it wasn't too long ago, Betty and I were cross-country skiing in that park. I'd go out there a lot before we came here. I just to ride out there and go through it and see it. And my heart's with that state park.
That's beautiful. Can you tell us a little bit about your newspaper business and what you liked about that?
Well, yeah, my whole family, my grandfather was a newspaper man, my uncle was a newspaper man, and my father was, and I just followed in their footsteps. And when my father and I, we formed a partnership, and we were together a long time ago, or a long time, and eventually he retired. And then I had the newspaper alone. We had a printing operation and office supply store, and that was mine. And so I was busy for, I forgot how many years, must be 40 years on my own. And in 1984, I sold it all. But of course, I did lots of things after that, so I didn't really retire. All I did was retire from the newspaper business.
And the newspapers are still being published.
Oh yes, it is, and it's very successful. Well, we had 2 newspapers. We had one in Onaway and one in Rogers City, and now they're merged.
What was your father's name?
My father's name was William Harold Whiteley, but everybody knew him as Hal. Nobody ever called him Harold or William or Bill. It was always Hal.
Okay.
Yeah.
And over the years, you have done a lot of community projects. You have been with Alpena Community College.
Yeah. Oh, gee. I was, if I start to relate all those, I was chairman of the Downtown Development Commission, and I was way back president of the Presque County Sportsman's Club, and eventually I became a trustee of the Alpena Community College Foundation, and then I got into state politics, you know, and got on the Conservation Commission. And after the Conservation Commission, after 25 years, Jim Blanchard, the governor, appointed me to the Michigan Travel Commission, and I had about 4 years there. Well, I thought it was over then, but H.W. George Bush, the president, appointed me to the Great Lakes Fishery Commission, which was really one of the commissions that I really enjoyed, because it was a group, 4 from Canada and 4 from the United States. And we'd meet in Toronto, and then we'd meet in Washington, and then we'd meet in Ottawa, and back and forth. And those people were just wonderful, and that was one of the highlights of my. So I was there for, I don't know, but I was there until Bill Clinton became president, and he found out, saw my name down here someplace, and said, "Hey, that guy's got to go." So that was that.
Okay, you've also been on the Michigan United Conservation Club.
Yeah, I was on their board for 10 years.
You've been on the Michigan Outdoor Writers Association.
I was president of that, yeah.
You've been on the Michigan Press Association.
I was president of that.
You've been on the Michigan State Chamber of Commerce.
What?
The Michigan State Chamber of Commerce.
I was on that board.
And you started a cruisers club in Rogers City.
The what?
Cruisers Club.
Oh yeah, I was a member of the Great Lake Cruising Club, and I was a port captain in Rogers City. They have port captains all over the lakes, and I just happened to be one of them. It wasn't any big deal, but it was fun.
So you owned a boat, and were you able to take on a little bit of the boating activity? Oh,
yeah, but it was strange. I didn't own the boat, but I had an arrangement with a friend of mine who let me use it every summer, and I did a lot of things for him, and so he did that for me, and I did a lot of cruising with it, and for a couple of weeks every summer, and that was another highlight of my life as far as fun was concerned. One time I went up the St. Mary's River to the Sioux from Rogers City. No, as a matter of fact, I went right across to Drummond Island, and then I went and took a route up into the St. Mary's River, and I went up the downbound channel by mistake. And that was funny because I had these great big freighters coming right at me, you know, but there was plenty of room, and but I'd hate to have met them in that big cut. If you're familiar, there's a cut very narrow right just out of the Sioux. I'd hate to have met that 1,000-footer in there. But anyway, that was another experience.
Okay. What did you like about being on the Alpena Community College Foundation Board?
Well, what I liked about it, of course, the association with those people were very nice. They were, but we accomplished a lot, raised money, and gave away a lot of scholarships, and that was a. They're still doing the same thing. They raising money. I was there for 20-some years, and I finally left there. But we gave so many scholarships away. That was the best thing we did. Well, that was our prime purpose.
Yeah, yeah.
And scholarships and money for the college. Raised a lot of money.
Well, you have had a remarkable career as an outdoorsman. So what do you appreciate most about the outdoors?
What do I appreciate most about the outdoors? I think just being out there. I can go out and sit and look at trees and look at lakes and look at rivers, and I'm just at peace. I just love to be outdoors. And I've been a hunter and fisherman all my life, and I'm proud of the fact that at last count I had shot 50 bucks.
Wow.
That was last count. But anyway, I probably should have joined the crowd, but I never wanted to shoot a doe. They had that doe season. In the first season, I shot a doe, and I looked at that and I said, that's the last one I'll ever shoot. There was just no thrill about shooting a lady.
You have a photo in your office of you and your son both getting 8-pointers.
Yeah.
At the same day.
Same day.
That's a good story.
What?
That's a good story.
Oh yeah, that was funny. My son had shot this 8-pointer, and he was real proud of it, you know. And so anyway, about a few hours later, I saw there was a big swale in front of me, but a ridge over here, and it was way off. But I put the scope up there, and I saw a buck. I could see horns, but it was so far away I didn't think I could hit it. So anyway, I brought up my gun and I raised it up above his back, and I pulled the trigger. Well, I didn't know what happened. So anyway, I started my way and wandered around this swamp, and finally got over there. It must have taken me half an hour. And when I got over there, I'm standing here and I'm looking all over to find some blood, to see if I hit him. And I looked up, and that deer was from here to that door, standing there looking at me. And so I pulled up and shot him. And he was a big 8-pointer. But I think he was ready to fall over, and he was just standing. I could hardly believe that. But anyway, so then I called my son over and I said, "You think you got a big deer? Take a look at this one." That's the picture.
Okay. There is another photo in your office of you with President Kennedy.
Oh yeah. I had lunch with the president. That was fun. Well, the only reason that a lot of these things happened was because I was always in the right place at the right time. And when I happened to be president of the Michigan Press Association. So I got this invitation from President Kennedy to come and have lunch at the White House. And obviously I jumped at it. Mm-hmm. And I remember I flew a Northwest Orient Airlines to Washington, and I walked up that front gate, and there were two Marines standing at the front door. They weren't even moving their eyelashes. They just looking ahead, you know. And I just walked up there, and just about the time I got up there, I'm wondering what I'm going to do next. The door opened, and a gentleman ushered me in, and there were some other newspaper men there, invited too, from other states, and he took us into the Red Room, and we stood there chatting like this, and pretty soon, out of a side door, came John F. Kennedy. And what impressed me most was how tall he was. He's a tall man. And he came over and chatted a little bit, and then he said, well, gentlemen, let's go in and have lunch. And so we went in, and there was a menu, a matchbox, and something else right at my place, everybody's place. And then Mr. Whiteley, tag there, and behind there were two waiters. There was one waiter for every two people. And boy, talk about service. If there was a crumb on that table, it disappeared instantly. So that was interesting. And then after we'd eaten, he said, I'd like to have questions from you. I want to hear what you think. And he was extremely cordial. And so quite a few questions were asked and answered, and we must have spent a half hour at least. I didn't ask him any questions, but I did a lot of listening. And one thing interesting, this was a long table, and he sat right over there in the middle, and he said, you know, I never sit at the end of the table because I can't hear what the other person at the end is saying, but when I sit here, I could look to my right, I could look to my left, and I could look across. I could talk to everybody. And I thought that was kind of interesting. And but it was then when we were all through, he said, now if you want to talk about more things, he says, I've got a meeting, but he said you can go in see Pierre Salinger, my press secretary, and talk to him, which we did. I went in there, and he was most cordial too, and we had a good visit with 3 or 4 of us. Stayed and did that. So I read quite recently where Salinger died. So after that, away I went and flew back home.
That was quite an honor. Quite an honor.
Yeah, well, like I said, though, it just happened. If I hadn't been president of the Press Association, I never had the invitation. A lot of things like that worked that way. I was at the right place at the right time.
Okay, we're going to now talk about the DNR.
Okay.
And for our viewers, I just want everyone to know that a building in 2013 was dedicated to Harry Whiteley. And it is the Harry H. Whiteley Conservation Education Building that is at the Ralph McMullen Conference Center in Roscommon, Michigan. And this was dedicated to you because of your 25 years on the Natural Resources Commission. So can you tell us about being on the Natural Resources Commission and that building and the honor that was bestowed upon you?
Yeah, of course, in 25 years, I served with a lot of people because there were always changes, you know. They were 4-year terms, and if you changed governors, they'd put their own people on. And so I must have gone through about something like 28 different commissioners that I served with. And so I got to, it was nice to have those acquaintances. And it was interesting because sometimes we were in full agreement on various issues, and sometimes we weren't. We had some pretty good discussions, but I think we accomplished a great deal, and I was with some very fine people. I always think of Dr. Stanley Kane from the University of Michigan, and Clarence Mester was also from the University of Michigan. We had some top flight people there when I first went on, and Carl Johnson, everybody knew Carl T. Johnson, the bear hunter. He served for a long time with me, and I felt that every time we were there that we accomplished something. I'll tell you one interesting incident. We were up in Escanaba or Iron Mountain, and that was when they advocated the no doe shooting. Mm-hmm. Well, we were, our people said we should be shooting some does. So we got there, and I remember sitting in that office, and here we were, hung in effigy, all of us. There were about 6, 7 people all hanging from these trees. I looked out the window, and here we were. Boy, they were really protesting in the Upper Peninsula. They weren't going to shoot any does. So I thought, boy, are we going to get out of here all right? But it was calm. It was all right.
Well, you would remember that story. Wow.
Oh, yeah, I'll remember that one.
Do you have any other stories about the commission and your responsibilities?
Well, yeah, one of the biggest problems we had, and one of the biggest confrontations, was when the oil companies wanted to come in the Pigeon River area. And that was a real test. Although I will say this, all of the people from the oil companies that we dealt with couldn't have been nicer or more cooperative. But they had permits to drill. But it was kind of a funny situation. They had permits, yet we had to give them permission. Well, our attorneys said that we could never win, but we fought it anyway, and I made the proposal, and I think I showed you that in that the book of memoirs that I wrote. Mm-hmm. I proposed that they keep the Pigeon River area, just keep it until a major disaster happened, or the last thing to do with it. Keep it as is. Don't give them permits, and we didn't prevail. They got their permits. They drilled, and they were very careful not to disturb anything, but still, I hated to see roads in there and trails and things. Mm-hmm. But they did the best they could, and we didn't have any catastrophes. But every time I go down there, and I go down there a lot, or I did, down the Pigeon River area, and I see all these trails, it just kind of makes me sick. I like wild things. But they didn't destroy a lot of trees. They didn't, it's always a threat that they're going to have a spill or something, but that worked out pretty well. It worked. We had to accept it. They told us if we went to court, we'd lose. So we eventually capitulated.
Well, over 25 years, you had quite a career.
Yeah, it was.
Being the
all
chairperson.
Kinds of things happened. And I served with some wonderful people. Mm-hmm. Yeah,
the building is a beautiful tribute to you. Wow, it's very, very aesthetic.
People have been very nice. The that building you mentioned was really a kind of the frosting on the cake of my career. It was really a surprise. I was emotionally taken over. But we had it was a nice program. Bob Garner, he emceed the program, and we had, Governor had one of his people there, and Keith Charters, who was the chairman of the commission after me, he was there, and all the commissioners were there. It was, I've got a whole bunch of pictures of it, but it was the highlight of my career. I mean, not the highlight of accomplishments, but it was just a wonderful thing to have happened.
What would you say now to the younger generation about appreciating life or the outdoors?
Well, the first thing I would do is to say, Michigan is the greatest piece of real estate in the world. We've got 3,900 miles of lakeshore. We've got something like 39,000 miles of lakes and rivers and streams, and I forgot 70,000 inland lakes. And I said, I would say your job is to preserve all of this. I'm a tree hugger, but then I know we're supposed to forestry. He's a forester. I'm a tree hugger, and every time a tree goes down, it makes me sick. But I would tell these younger people what your job is to preserve what we have. Don't desecrate the landscape, and preserve everything that you can. Keep it clean and protect it. But by protecting it, I mean make sure that you don't do things wrong. Be vigilant. Don't let people cut down forests that you don't think should be cut down, and don't look after the wetlands. Those have to be preserved. Wetlands are important. It's a hard sell because they say, oh, that's not a wetland, or this is not a wetland, but wetlands are necessary. And so the young people have to be vigilant and just make sure that all this is protected for their next generation.
I think that's a very important message.
Well, that's the way I feel. I just feel that that's what I try to do. I try to make sure that every tree is saved that can be, and keep our lakes clean. There's another important thing. Keeping our lakes and rivers are clean. Look at the Au River. They have the greatest trout stream in the world, and yet they have to go every spring and clean up all the things that people throw into the river. That just makes me sick. But those are the things that young people have to should also be told. Keep your rivers and streams and your lakes clean.
I think obviously water is going to be one of our most important resources in the future. It's the
most important. Clean water. You bet. And we've got to keep it that way.
Well, is there anything in conclusion that you would like to tell our audience?
Anything what?
Anything else you would like to share with our audience?
Well, I don't know really. I think you've asked me all of the questions, and I hope I've answered them fairly well. I could just repeat, be vigilant. Look after what God gave us. And Michigan is such a great place.
Well, you certainly have seen a lot of Michigan over the years.
Oh.
So you know.
I have been in every town and every hamlet and every county in Michigan, but I did that on I was managing a campaign for a man who was running for governor.
Oh.
So that's how I got around through all the state. Okay. I've been everywhere, every place you can think of, because I was trying to sell him. But that's another long story. that doesn't have anything to do with conservation.
Well, in conclusion, Harry, thank you for being with us today.
Well,
and thank you for the nice messages that you're delivering to all of us.
Well, it was my pleasure.
And let's remain vigilant over taking care of our trees and our water.
Right.
For Michigan. Thank you very much.